Hi, my name is Deanna Langer, and my presentation will be on juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, otherwise known as JRA. So what is juvenile rheumatoid arthritis? It is the body's own immune system attacking healthy tissue in the body, and it deteriorates cartilage and other fibrous tissue around the joint. It is known as juvenile idiopathic arthritis as well, so JRA and JIA can be interchangeable. It affects over 300,000 kids per year, so that's every 1 in 1,000 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with JRA. Inflammation starts before the age of 16, and as early as 4 years old, children have been seeing signs and symptoms of JRA, and it can either progress and get worse as they grow up, or they can grow out of it. If their pain and inflammation lasts longer than 6 months, they have chronic inflammation, which is a good determining factor of JRA, and they will go to the doctor. As well as rashes, eye inflammation, and fevers can be symptoms as well, as long as that typical swelling and pain in the joint. There are a couple different types of arthritis that children can get. So they can get alveolar arthritis, which affects smaller joints such as your knee and your wrists. And that is the most common type of arthritis. About 50 to 60% of all diagnosed children have this type. There's also polyarticular JRA, which affects 5 or more joints throughout the body. And then there is systemic onset JRA, which affects the whole body, but this is the most rare type of JRA. Some terminology, just for basic knowledge, is arthritis is the inflammation of the joints. Rheumatism is any disease marked by inflammation in the joints, muscle, or fibrous tissue. Alveolar is affecting few joints, polyarticular is 5 or more, and then the systemic affects the whole body or major organ systems. So what causes JRA? There's not many known causes of JRA that are distinct points of when children would develop this, but there are some theories that viruses or genes can be triggers. There is a antigen on chromosome 6 called DR4, and if children are found to have that certain antigen, they have a more likelihood of getting JRA as they grow and develop. Pain and swelling are caused by chemicals released by the body because its own immune system is attacking the healthy tissue in the joint, and they're trying to fix it, and they're trying to heat it up and make it better. JRA tends to be more painful for use because their immune system is not as developed and cannot function fully, especially when it's being attacked. And compared to adult rheumatoid arthritis, it tend to be more painful. JRA seems to affect more females than males. There are no causes or reasons behind this that are known. It's just the statistics that females are more affected than males. Diet and environmental factors seem to have no effect on the development of JRA as children grow up. And then JRA, because it either is because viruses or genes, it's called a multifactorial disease. So environment and genes have to play a role to develop the JRA symptoms and signs. Symptoms of JRA, like we've talked about, is that pain and swelling in the joints. The joints that are most affected by JRA are the wrists and knees because they're smaller, they're more susceptible to this disease. Joints will swell up, they'll be red, and they will be warm to the touch, which is good indications of JRA. Stiffness will occur mostly in the mornings and at night. Mornings tend to be stiff because they didn't use their joints while they were sleeping, and at night, if they overuse their joints, it will be very painful and stiff. Development of a limp or loss of motor function are very important because that affects their daily living, especially if they're a kid and they're trying to run around and have fun and play with their friends. Rashes on the skin, swollen lymph nodes, and inflammation in the eye are less important indications because those can be written off as different issues, but they are nonetheless symptoms of JRA. So to be diagnosed with JRA, children will go through a physical exam where they go through the symptoms that they are experiencing. So things like that limp or the loss of motor function, the pain, the swelling will be checked out. Fevers, dry eyes, and rashes can all be written off, like I've said, so those are the less important ones, but the loss of motor function is a huge problem, and that will lead to doctors giving kids a blood test or imaging scans to further investigate. Blood tests are the most reliable source of diagnosis for JRA because doctors will be looking for certain enzymes and proteins such as rheumatoid factors, CCP, ESR, CRP, and anti-nuclear antibodies. So rheumatoid factors and CCP look for the rheumatoid genes that you would have in your body. ESR and C-reactive proteins look at the inflammation levels in the body, and then anti-nuclear antibodies are the main cause of a lot of autoimmune disorders. So if a child has that in their system, it is a good chance, along with everything else, that they have JRA. Some effects that JRA have on exercise is that kids want to run and jump and play like they would originally, but their joints are in pain, so they can't play sports or games or be outside as easily as other kids. So aquatic exercises such as swimming laps or treading water are very good ideas to do with a child that has JRA because it takes the gravitational pressure of their body weight off of their joints and puts them in a buoyant environment that they can have free mobility and flexibility, and it causes less pain for them to move. Exercises and sports that are high impact, such as football and rugby and running a marathon, those are not good ideas for children with JRA because it will put too much stress and overwork their joints, causing a lot more pain than they're already in. And studies have shown that a mixture of strength training along with aquatic exercise helps develop better function of their joints, better motion, and flexibility. A study done in 2001 took kids in an 8-week program, and they went through strength training along with the aquatic exercises, and they saw an increase in their VO2 max as well as a decrease in their pain and their swelling, and an increase in their flexibility and their motion. Prevention and cures for JRA. Not much is known for the cure for JRA. There is no cure as of now. But going to physical therapy and working on motion and flexibility will really help with daily living and just walking and running and getting back into that, as well as taking pain medication, or there's different shots that you can take for extreme pain that you can go to the doctor for. Keeping joints warm is very easy and kind of unknown because if you keep a joint warm, it's more lubricated, it can move a lot better. So keeping joints warm, especially in the morning after being asleep all night and the joint is really stiff, just putting a heating pad on it, that will really help bring some motion back to the joint and lessen the pain. So my case study, I decided to do a 14-year-old male that comes in, is recently diagnosed with JRA in his right knee. He is 5'6" and he weighs 115 pounds. He has played soccer throughout his entire childhood until he started feeling an increased discomfort in his right knee. He wants to get back into soccer and is looking to find relief in his pain through exercise. For the exercise prescription I have assigned for this certain client is a 5RM strength max test to see what kind of weights he can lift, and I chose 5RM because he is 14 years old. He is old enough to know how to lift weights and take directions from whoever is administering the test, but he is also not experienced with weightlifting. So 1RM might not be the best for him, and 10RM might not be suitable either because he is old enough to have knowledge of he can lift. I thought of doing a squat max test so he could work on his lower body, since that's what he's going to be mainly using in soccer, and then that's where his pain is, so we can work on his lower body especially. The client would be lifting 3 times a week. I would start him off, especially with his body weight, because he needs to go through the motions and see if he can do these exercises just with his body weight and see how comfortable he is with that. And once he is, build up the weight that we put on him, and he's going to start lifting about 5 times a week while incorporating aquatic exercises into his regimen, which would include like swimming laps and treading water for a while, just to build up his VO2 and his aerobic capacity, as long as he's strength training. He might need to use support for the first couple times he lifts because the exercises might become uncomfortable for him, but as he builds strength and gets used to the motions, he will become more comfortable with those exercises. I said that the client should be doing 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps, 60% of his 5RM. About 8 exercises should be mainly focusing on the lower body, like I said, since that's what he's going to be using for soccer, and that's where we're trying to target his JRA and his knee. Exercises like squats, lunges, and leg presses can help increase his strength because there's a lot of variations he can do of each exercise. He won't have to get bored. He can use it to do specificity for his soccer. And then swimming laps can help him bring up his VO2, and it can give him a break of his knee and provide flexibility and free range of motion as he's swimming in the pool. Some special accommodations for kids with JRA is that they are still kids, so they need to avoid working out in hot, humid environments. Playing games on a really hot summer day should be avoided, and they should be taking in a lot of water frequently to make sure that they're cooling their body down and staying hydrated as they sweat it all out. Motion will help relieve pain, not high intensity motion, but going on walks daily, doing swimming daily, and stretching every morning, especially when their joints are stiff, would help bring motion and flexibility into that joint that they're having problems with. Braces and supported shoes or shoe inserts are very helpful because it will provide stability and pain relief for the child as they are walking or if they're running. And then finding a balance between exercise and rest is super important because the child will need to do exercises to bring that mobility and work on the strength in their joint that they're affected in, but doing rest as well because they don't want to overwork their joint and make the JRA flare up more and become worse and follow them through life and become just regular rheumatoid arthritis. So in conclusion, JRA is a condition that affects every 1 in 1,000 children in the U.S. It causes pain and swelling in the joints. That is because the deterioration of the cartilage and fibrous tissue and the bones rubbing against each other will cause all that pain and inflammation. If they're not taken care of, there can be permanent damage, and it will follow them throughout their entire life and make them have rheumatoid arthritis when they're adults. And there's no cure, but daily stretching, keeping the joints warm, doing some light activity every day along with strength training, and especially doing aerobic water or swimming is really helpful for their joints. So these are my references, and thank you so much for watching.